Have you ever thought, what if trains took longer?
You see, because I'm weird and I can't get enough of trains, I decided to travel all the way across the country using only local trains. So, for this train trip, I used the Seishun Kippu, which is a special ticket you can get per JR for unlimited travel across any local train line, not the rapid train lines, across Japan for a certain number of days. Kagoshima Station was surprisingly well loved looking, considering how much of a major transport it is in southern Kyushu. There was rust everywhere, and a lot of the station signs just looked really, really old, which surprised me. Nevertheless, I lined up, I caught my train, and then I was very, very surprised to see that they used the same model of train that we use where I live in Kumamoto. I was a bit disappointed because I have mixed feelings about those trains. The windows are darkened to prevent morning sun from blasting you in the face, but this also has the unfortunate side effect of making it harder to see like literally any of the scenery. They also have commuter style benches, which are great for high population volumes, but Kyushu just flat out doesn't have that amount of people. I really wish they would give us nice, proper benches and let us look out the window easier, instead of letting us look at people's feet. You know?
Also, as you may be able to tell by just looking at my subscriber count, I'm a bit of a small channel, so I decided to advertise myself. So I brought this giant light-up LED backpack displaying what I was doing, my YouTube channel, and yeah, it was about as embarrassing as you'd expect. But hey, if I'm doing this anyways, why not turn myself into a free walking billboard, you know?
I think now is a great time to mention that I am an incredibly socially awkward person. If you speak to me unexpectedly in public or look at me for too long, chances are I'll turn bright red or stutter while talking. So while having an LED backpack was great advertisement for my channel, it was also one of the most painful things I've ever had to do in my life. Just the amount of constant stares made me want to melt into a little puddle. I know some train otakus get flack online, but I chatted with three of them during this trip and they were all super, super nice and welcoming. I think they were just excited to talk about a mutual interest, and they helped me feel a lot less self conscious about filming. After riding the train from Kagoshima Chuo Station for about an hour or so, I ended up transferring trains at Satsuma Sendai. See, Satsuma Sendai is just called Sendai in Japanese, but Sendai is also the name of a much more famous city in Miyagi Prefecture. And there has been several documented occasions where tourists will come to the Sendai in Kagoshima instead of the Sendai in Miyagi, get very confused about why they can't ski in a tropical paradise. It's a super, super historic city, home to the ruins of old temples, islands, and an old samurai district. Unfortunately, I was not able to appreciate any of that for myself because I had a exactly 30-second transfer time due to a train delay. Anyone who tells you that trains are never delayed in Japan has either never been outside Tokyo or just has never lived here, because here in West Japan, trains get delayed literally all of the time, and you don't get any compensation for it. The line I transferred onto at Sendai is one of the only non JR lines I used on this trip, meaning that my special discount did not apply and I had to buy the ticket at full price, which hurt my wallet a little bit. However, I do think traveling on this line is worth it, even though it's a bit more expensive. The Hisatsu Orange Line is a winding, scenic route that passes right next to the ocean, and even though the tracks are electrified, it's a diesel train due to budgetary limitations. So, why do I have to take the Hisatsu Orange Railway? Why can't I use JR? Well, this section of track was originally owned by JR, however, ownership of the line was transferred in 2004 after the Shinkansen opened. This is a real issue in Kyushu, with JR closing a lot of local lines after opening the Shinkansen. It's why it's maddeningly difficult to get to Nagasaki using local trains now. It's literally the next prefecture over from me in Kumamoto. There's no logical reason it should take 6 to 8 hours to get there due to really, really bad transfer times. The Shinkansen there is also stupidly expensive, requiring three transfers and costing over 10,000 yen, so around 100 bucks. Also, poor Saga Prefecture is getting absolutely shafted. Anyways, Shinkansen ran over. The Hisatsu Orange Line was stunning and worth every single extra penny that I paid to ride it. The sea was just so blue and has a color I don't think I've ever seen in any other part of Japan before, with the exception of maybe Okinawa. The train itself is super small, only one car, and definitely leads into the sightseeing aspect of travel. You see, there used to be another JR line that connected Kumamoto and Kagoshima called the JR Hisatsu Line. It was beautiful, running along the famous Kumagawa River and going into Hitoyoshi, a part of Kumamoto that frankly I still haven't explored well and really want to visit. However, the railway was almost entirely destroyed in 2020 due to heavy flooding and won't be reopened until 2037. There was also a limited part of the railway that was still operational until last year, but then it got destroyed in another flooding event. There are bus taxi services between Hitoyoshi and Yatsushiro, but only on weekdays, so unfortunately, I do have a full-time job and I'm never going to be able to use them. It's a shame. Anyways, after riding the Hisatsu Orange Line, I transfer off the Hisatsu Orange Railway to Yatsushiro Station. Yatsushiro is a decently big city in Kumamoto. Yatsushiro is also locally famous for its fireworks festival, though I must admit it's too far away for me to go see it and risk being stranded due to overcrowding. Trust me, if you think Tokyo during rush hour is bad, you've never seen any form of public transit in Japan before or after a large fireworks festival. It's absolutely insane. Yatsushiro is also almost exactly in the geographic center of the old island of Kyushu, so I'm already halfway up the island. It gets its name from an old mountainous temple believed to be the tomb of Amaterasu, with the cave she was thought to have emerged from lying close by in Miyazaki. No tomb currently exists today, though it was mentioned in the Nihonshiki, one of Japan's most ancient historical documents. Other attractions include giant pomelos and the material for tatami mats. After I finish my journey, I'm back in Kumamoto. I live here, so I'm cheating a little bit and cutting the day short so I can sleep in my own bed tonight because, man, hotels are expensive. The total number of prefectures I passed through was 2, and I was feeling pretty okay. That was my shortest train ride for the entire trip, and my longest will be around 12 to 14 hours. Day 2, and I'm going from Kumamoto to Iwakuni entirely by local train. I woke up bright and early at 4 a.m. and got to the station by 5 a.m. I knew I wasn't going to have time to eat a proper breakfast, so I gorged myself on convenience store food. And I was also feeling a little bit sick, so I got a vitamin C drink, but it did not help. My nose was so congested this entire trip. Today I'm going to be riding the train from 5:30 a.m. to 2:34 p.m., which means it's around 9 hours of pure nonstop train. Yippee. This was my first long day of traveling, and I think I underestimated just how exhausting sitting for over 9 hours would be. The longest I've personally gone on this train journey is to Hakata, normally transferring to the Shinkansen from there to save me around 30 bucks or so. A key player in this route is the rapid train to Mochigo Station. If you get lucky, sometimes it stops at Kumamoto Station, but the one I'm catching today started in Inarao, the boundary city between Kumamoto and Fukuoka prefectures. Unfortunately, we won't stop at Mochigo today, though I've always wanted to go, but if you have the time, please check it out. The station itself is beautiful and in a super retro area. When I got to Tarao Station to catch the express train, it was stunning. The sun was rising, there was no one else there, and I got a perfect shot of another train in frame. It was everything I could have wanted. I then stood up on the express train for 4 straight hours because the seats on the train were commuter style benches, and I wanted to get a nice look at the view outside. And it was stunning. It was worth killing my legs. But yeah, after riding the train for 4 hours, I transferred stations at Kokura in Kitakyushu. I've never properly explored this city, but would absolutely love to someday. The train I caught there took me 2 short stops to Shimonoseki, officially letting me cross into Honshu itself. To get to Shimonoseki, I passed through the Kanmon Tunnel, the first ever undersea tunnel in Japan. It's actually around 3.5 kilometers long and critical to Japan's railway infrastructure. The US actually planned to blow up this tunnel towards the end of World War II, and it actually gathered the materials and spies needed for the task, but the war ended before the plan was carried out. However, the train I rode itself was actually very musty and old. The windows were tinted with either a thick patina of dirt or just as possibly cigarette smoke. The actual train journey itself between the two islands was surprisingly short, only around 10 minutes. I got off at Shimonoseki and, incredibly hungry, spotted a soba shop in the station itself. I had a 40-minute transfer time, so why not? The soba shop was apparently famous for fugu tempura, which I really wanted to try, but they were all sold out when I got there. The soba was so hot and steamy that it made my glasses entirely fog up. The Google reviews of this place had a lot of salarymen like reminiscing about nostalgic times back when they used to eat the soba restaurant, and I could almost feel the nostalgia in every bite. It was some of the best soba I've ever had, train station soba or not, and it was worth the whole $4 I think I paid for it. After eating my truly delectable soba, I sat on the platform to wait for my next train, and then I watched a white dude and his girlfriend get into a fight with the train driver. You see, said white dude and his girlfriend tried to get on the fancy reservation only sightseeing train, and then got into a fight with the driver. No one on the train spoke English, so the conductor busted out Google Translate. I watched from a distance because while I can speak Japanese, I didn't really want to get involved. Like, the two white people were being assholes about it, and honestly, didn't want to deal with it. After getting on the Sanyo line, I saw a wild pheasant for the first time just running along the tracks. The Sanyo line trains are old and smell weird at times, but have absolutely amazing seats. It's really a toss up whether you get one of the new models, or, like I did on this trip, one of the old models with really dirty windows that make all the footage you take out of them kind of look fuzzy. Sorry for that. I got gifted a haichi by a very nice man who was from Hokkaido after he saw my bag and realized that I was going to Hokkaido. It really, really made my trip, and I was so happy because at that point, I'd ridden the train for almost 7 hours and I was ready to end it all. I also got sat next to and surrounded by a couple of bachans, and I realized just how cute Hiroshima or Yamaguchi Ben is. It's hard to really understand the nuances of how like funny it sounds to me if you don't speak Japanese, but instead of sonanda, they'd say sonanja, and I'm like, it sounds very cute to me. I don't know why. Like another one I heard was wakaranjaro, which sounds so strange, and I love it. There was also a cat owner with a cat on the train hidden in his bag, and the cat was meowing, and the owner looked very, very exasperated and was desperately telling it to shush. And then I also had three or so high schoolers not so secretly trying to take pics of my bag, but that wasn't the worst. I could deal with that. My biggest gripe with the Sanyo Line trains is that even though you can ride them for up to 4 hours, they don't always have a bathroom, and unfortunately, the train I rode that day did not have a bathroom, and I had drunk a lot of water. It was a rough time. I passed through four prefectures because of the train's brief stop in Tosu, Saga Prefecture. Unfortunately, the town I stopped in, Iwakuni, was a few kilometers away from the border of Hiroshima, so I did not pass through Hiroshima on that day. In total, I passed through four prefectures: Kumamoto, Saga, Fukuoka, and Yamaguchi. And since I rode the train from 5:30 in the morning to around 2:30 in the evening, I rode the train for 9 consecutive hours. Joy. After arriving in Iwakuni, I stayed with my friend and watched him play soccer, ate sushi, got a little bit drunk, took a well deserved rest day. The next day, my friend also graciously drove me to the train station so I could catch my 4:30 a.m. train. Yeah, that was about as rough as you'd think. I was a little bit hungover from the night before, and getting up at 4:30 a.m. to catch a train was like one of the things I least wanted to do. I got a bit lucky and I got one of the newer Sanyo Line trains with the clean windows and the newer seats and no weird smell, but that was kind of all for nothing because it was night and I couldn't get any good footage without either the glare from the inside of the train or just it being too dark out to capture anything, unfortunately. One thing that really, really surprised me was just how cold it got. Where I'm from in Kumamoto, the temperature was around 22 degrees when I left. However, in Iwakuni in the morning, it was 8 degrees in the morning, and I was not dressed for the weather. I was wearing a jacket and maybe like a shirt underneath, and I got so cold so fast I started shivering visibly, and the train station attendant like walked over to me and asked me if I was okay. Don't get me wrong, I had a jacket in my bag. I was too stubborn to take it out and use it, but after that, I definitely did take my jacket out. Normally, you can see Fukuyama Castle from the Shinkansen platform at Fukuyama Station, but when I passed through Fukuyama Station, I could not see anything except for the bottom of the castle walls. Goes to show that if you pay extra for the Shinkansen experience, I guess you get a better view too, but oh well. One thing that really surprises me is in Hiroshima and Yamaguchi, a lot of the houses have orange roof tiles, but as soon as I passed into Okayama, all the houses had blue roof tiles. I don't know the history behind it, and it does fascinate me a little bit, but it was really clear just to see how noticeable the difference between the two prefectures was, even for something as minuscule as like how you decorate your roof. I chose to ride the train for an extra 30 minutes today to see a prettier view, but even though I was promised a prettier view, I couldn't really see much. I passed the ocean briefly, but most of it was tunnels, so the sights I got were kind of minimal. However, I did pass through where the 47 Ronin, famous from Japanese history, were, so that was pretty cool. I knew they were real, but I didn't know they were in Okayama, so that's neat. I was really tired, so after I got off the not so scenic line, I almost missed my transfer to Himeji, and then when I got onto the transfer train, I promptly passed out. The rapid train from Himeji was packed, literally so busy. It was insane. I was sitting in the bench style seats, and normally those seats have like an assumed limit of two people per seat. But I had some young dudes try to push me into the wall so they could fit three people in the seat, so me and the two other guys. I didn't see them trying to do that to anyone else, so I don't know if it was just like a me thing. But yeah, they really like pushed and shoved me quite harshly into the side of the wall just so they could try to sit in the seat. It was strange, but oh well. As we passed into Kyoto and then Shiga, I noticed that the houses definitely had a more traditional feel to them than the things I see in Kumamoto. Also, not gonna lie, I was a bit disappointed because I was hoping to see the most famous lake in Japan, Lake Biwa, but couldn't see it at all from the train. It was genuinely so saddening. After I got off the train in Shiga, ending my 10-hour train journey for the day, I went to a local temple. This local temple was converted into a cafe. It's still a functional temple, like you can still see the main worship hall and everything. But for like the groundskeepers areas, they've converted it into a public garden and a cafe, and it is stunning. One of the most beautiful places I've been in Japan. The temple's name is Seigan Temple, which means blue cliffside essentially, and the entire temple had a bit of a blue theme to it. There was a blue dragon at the entrance, and I also got blue cheesecake and a really, really adorable matcha latte. Unfortunately, I didn't time my visit the best, and the day I came just so happened to be the day that all the groundskeepers were working. So my visit felt more like going to an aquarium and watching all the old men in a fish tank. But it was fun. I saw a bunch of really, really old paintings, walked through an old building, had good tea, and then it was all ruined when a bunch of really, really noisy tourists came in and I wanted to leave. The streets themselves in Shiga are very, very traditional. They remind me a lot of Kyoto, which I guess makes sense because the city I stayed in, Maibara, is quite, quite close to Kyoto. After taking a brief 2-hour power nap in my hotel, I went to Hakone, which is famous for its castle. However, due to my 2-hour power nap, I entirely missed the castle's opening times, and I was forced to walk around the grounds at night instead. The grounds at night were still cool, but I would assume that going inside the castle is much, much cooler. Undeterred, I checked out the historic Castletown area around the castle, and I ate a very overpriced beef bowl. See, Kumamoto, where I'm from, is famous for its beef, and so is Hakone apparently, but personally, I think Kumamoto's beef was a little bit better. Don't get me wrong though, it was still good beef, far better than anything you can buy in the West. After walking around at night some more, I ended up heading back, getting enough rest for my incredibly long train journey the next day. But you guys are gonna have to wait to see that train journey because this video is already a little bit too long, so I'm gonna be splitting this video up into 2 parts. If you want to see my journey from Maibara all the way to Hokkaido, stay tuned for next week. See ya!